Welcome to Living Your Senior Life, the podcast where we explore tips, ideas, and inspiration for making the most of every season of life. Whether it's health, lifestyle, or a little bit of fun, we're here to help you live well, live fully, and live your best senior life. In today's episode, we're looking at essential foods for bone strength. So sit back, relax, and let's discover what we can learn.
Okay, if you're still thinking bone health just means, drinking more milk, you might need a bit of an update. Today, we're definitely moving past just the basics. We want to build a full, proactive strategy for keeping your skeleton strong and resilient. And this matters whether you're, say, in your 40s looking to prevent loss down the road, or maybe in your 70s wanting to protect the strength you have. Our mission today, it's pretty clear. Pull out the specific foods, the exact nutrient amounts, and the daily habits that research actually shows can slow down bone loss and, crucially, lower your risk of fractures. We want actionable stuff.
Absolutely. And that level of detail is so important because, honestly, bone health is complex. It gets oversimplified a lot. The fascinating thing is bone isn't static. It's living tissue, constantly breaking down and rebuilding itself. It's called remodeling. But the balance starts to shift usually around age 30. That's when the breakdown process starts to, outpace the building process.
And that speeds up, right? Especially at certain life stages.
It really does. It accelerates for everyone, but you see a particularly sharp drop for women after menopause because estrogen levels fall. And men aren't immune either. Falling testosterone levels also lead to faster bone loss. So maintaining that structure, your body's framework, it takes more than just calcium. It really relies on a whole stack of nutrients working together.
Okay, a stack. Let's define that. We all hear about calcium and vitamin D constantly. They're the stars, I guess. But who are the crucial supporting players we tend to forget?
Right, the core nutrient stack. Calcium and vitamin D are definitely foundational, yes. But you absolutely have to include high-quality protein. And then there's magnesium and vitamin K. Those five are really the non-negotiables. Think of it like this. Calcium and protein build the structure itself. Vitamin D helps you absorb the calcium. And magnesium and vitamin K, they kind of direct the calcium, making sure it gets deposited into the bone, not somewhere else you don't want it, like your arteries.
Wow, okay. That definitely changes the grocery list already. So let's dive right into the practical stuff. You mentioned our sources laid out a really efficient, quick start plan, like 3 things you can do today.
Exactly. It's designed for immediate action. First one might sound a little odd. Eat 4 to 6 prunes today. We'll get into the why later, but trust me, there's solid research behind this specific recommendation for bone density.
Prunes, okay, noted. What's number 2?
Number 2 is about consistency with calcium. Don't try to get it all at once. Aim to include a good calcium source with each meal to help you hit that daily target.
Makes sense. And the third step, that links back to one of those core stack nutrients, right?
Correct. Get enough vitamin D. And that usually means a combination approach. Some sunlight exposure is really beneficial, maybe 10 to 20 minutes a few times a week, helps your body make its own vitamin D. But you also need to get it from food or potentially a supplement. Vitamin D is absolutely key for using the calcium you eat.
Okay, practical steps. Now let's get precise. What are the daily targets? If we're serious about optimizing this and fighting that age-related decline, what numbers should we aim for?
For calcium, the research is pretty consistent.
Yeah.
You're aiming for 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams per day. And like I said, spreading it out is key because your body absorbs it best in smaller amounts, maybe around 500 milligrams at a time.
Okay, 1,000 to 1,200 milligram calcium. What about vitamin D?
For vitamin D, the target is generally 600 to 800 IU. That's international units.
Got it. Now here's one that often trips people up, especially older adults, protein. What's the goal there?
Yes, protein is so critical, not just for muscles, which obviously help prevent falls, but protein forms the actual organic scaffolding within the bone itself. Older adults really need to be mindful of this. The target is higher than many realize, 1.0 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight.
1.2 grams per kilo. That's a lot of protein, especially if someone's appetite isn't great or maybe they have trouble chewing. How do people realistically hit that? Did the sources suggest practical ways?
Yeah, that's a really important practical question. Just eating, a giant steak often isn't the answer or even possible. The sources really emphasize nutrient-dense options. Think Greek yogurt, maybe smoothies fortified with protein powder, cottage cheese, eggs are great, or even adding things like collagen peptides, which we can talk more about, to soups or coffee. The key is concentration, getting maximum protein in minimum volume.
That makes a lot of sense. Concentrated sources. But okay, nutrition is one piece. What about lifestyle? You mentioned bones respond to stress.
Absolute fundamental. Bones are like muscles. In that way, they need mechanical load, a signal that they need to stay strong and dense. So you really need two main types of exercise. First is weight-bearing activity. Anything where you're upright, working against gravity, walking, dancing, even light jogging counts.
Okay, weight bearing. And the second type?
You need to pair that with resistance training. This is what builds muscle. And when muscles pull on bones, it stimulates bone growth. And don't forget balance exercises. Things like Tai Chi are excellent because, as we know, most fractures happen because of falls. So preventing falls is huge.
Right, prevention is key. Okay, now we know what nutrients we need, the targets, and the importance of movement. Let's really zero in on specific foods. We want to go beyond just milk and find those powerhouses that deliver multiple benefits from that core stack.
Exactly. We're looking for foods that pack a punch. Take sardines, for example, but specifically the ones packed with the bone still in. A small can, maybe 3.75 ounces, gives you a whopping 325 to 350 milligrams of calcium. That's easily a third of your daily goal right there. Plus, you get about 190 IUs of vitamin D, and those healthy omega-3 fats, those tiny edible bones, are just a fantastic source of calcium.
Wow, sardines with bones. Okay, now vegetables. We always hear leafy greens for calcium, but the source material had a really important correction about that, didn't it? I always assumed spinach was the best bet.
A lot of people do. But this brings up a key point about bioavailability, how much your body can actually absorb. Spinach, along with beet greens and Swiss chard, yes, they contain calcium, but they're also really high in compounds called oxalates. And oxalates bind to calcium in your gut, basically blocking your body from absorbing it effectively.
So, spinach isn't the calcium hero we thought it was?
Not if it's your main source, no. The real leafy green superstar for available calcium is kale. Kale is low in oxalates, so you get usable calcium, plus you get vitamin K and vitamin C, which are also important for building that bone matrix.
That is a critical distinction. So all that spinach, maybe not the best calcium strategy. Okay, what about good plant-based options besides kale?
Calcium-set tofu is an excellent one. You have to check the label, but if it's made using calcium sulfate, just half a cup can give you around 350 milligrams of calcium. Plus, tofu provides soy isoflavones. Some research suggests these might help slow down bone loss, especially after menopause.
Okay, tofu. And for dairy eaters, you mentioned thinking beyond just milk.
Right. Consider aged or fermented cheeses, things like Gouda or Swiss. They're valuable because they contribute vitamin K2. Remember, K2, that's the vitamin that helps direct calcium into your bones and keeps it out of arteries. Very important.
Got it. K2 from aged cheese. Okay, shifting focus slightly to protein and vitamin D, champs, salmon comes up a lot. What's special about it for bones, beyond just being high in protein?
Wild-caught salmon is fantastic because it hits multiple targets really well. Yes, you get a good protein base, about 22 grams in a typical serving, but it also delivers a significant amount of vitamin D, anywhere from roughly 380 to 570 IU per 3 ounces. That's a huge contribution. It helps with structure and maybe even inflammation linked to bone loss.
That's impressive. And what about simpler everyday options? Maybe something already in most people's fridges.
Eggs. Don't underestimate the humble egg. They provide complete protein, which is great, especially if you struggle to get enough at smaller meals. And the yolk is one of the few natural food sources of vitamin D. It's not a huge amount, maybe 40 IU per egg, but it all adds up. They're a versatile foundation, especially for breakfast.
Okay, great practical options. Now let's get into what the sources called the research standouts. These are foods with some really specific, interesting evidence behind them. Let's start with the one from the Quick Start Plan, prunes.
Ah, yes, the prunes. The research here is actually quite compelling and specific. Studies have shown that eating just 4 to 6 prunes a day, that's about 50 grams, can specifically help preserve bone density in the hip in postmenopausal women.
Just 4 to 6 prunes. Wow. Why? What's in them?
It's thought to be a combination of nutrients, particularly boron and various polyphenols, which seem to have a protective effect on bone. It's such a simple, actionable thing. You can easily mix them in a yogurt with some almonds. Boom, you get protein, magnesium, and calcium too.
It's amazing to think of a simple snack food having that kind of documented effect. Okay, what was the second research standout? This one targets the bone structure more directly.
Right, we're talking about collagen peptides. Collagen is, well, it's the main protein that makes up the organic framework of your bone, about 90% of it actually. Research on specific collagen peptide supplements, typically around 5 grams per day, has shown they can help increase bone mineral density, or BMD. But, and this is important, it works best when combined with getting enough calcium, vitamin D, and doing that exercise we talked about. You're essentially giving your body targeted building blocks.
Sending in the engineers, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, besides the big two, calcium and D, we mentioned other minerals like magnesium and potassium. Where are the best places to find those if bone health is the goal?
You want nutrient-dense sources again. Quinoa is a great example. A cooked cup gives you about 120 milligrams of magnesium, plus protein and phosphorus, another mineral vital for the bone matrix. Almonds are also really rich in magnesium. For potassium, look at things like sweet potatoes. A medium one has around 450 milligrams, and potassium is important because it helps your body hold on to calcium, reducing how much gets lost through urine.
Good to know. And what about convenience options? Things like fortified plant milks or orange juice.
Yeah.
Are they a decent strategy?
They can be very useful, definitely, especially for consistency. Many are fortified to provide 300, even 400 milligrams of calcium per cup, often with vitamin D added too. The key thing is you have to read the labels carefully, especially for protein. Soy milk is usually pretty good protein-wise, but almond milk, oat milk, they can be quite low in protein. So if you rely on those, you need to make sure you're getting protein from somewhere else in that meal.
Right, always check the label. Okay, we've covered the builders. Now we need to talk about the bone breakers, things that actively mess with bone health and that we should limit. Let's start with something really common, salt.
Yes, high sodium intake is a big one. When you eat too much salt, your kidneys excrete more sodium to get rid of it. And unfortunately, calcium kind of gets dragged out along with it. So excess sodium basically leads to calcium loss in your urine. That's why keeping sodium under 2,300 milligrams a day is really recommended for preserving bone.
Okay, watch the salt. What about caffeine, the coffee habit? Does it really harm bones?
Well, the key words seem to be excess and context. Very high caffeine intake, think more than 400 milligrams a day, which is roughly 4 cups of coffee, might slightly reduce calcium absorption. But this seems to matter most if your overall calcium intake is already low. If you're consistently hitting that 1,200 milligram calcium target, a few cups of coffee probably aren't a major issue. If you're barely getting any calcium, then maybe it tips the balance.
Okay. Moderation and context. What about soft drinks, specifically the ones with phosphoric acid?
Right. Sugary drinks, especially colas that contain phosphoric acid, are linked to lower bone density, particularly if you drink them regularly. There are a couple of reasons. One, they often displace healthier drinks like milk or fortified juices. Two, that excess phosphorus might disrupt the body's delicate calcium phosphate balance, potentially leading it to pull calcium from bones to compensate.
Best to limit those then, and the two big lifestyle factors we absolutely have to mention.
Smoking and heavy alcohol use. Smoking is just bad news for bones all around. It accelerates bone loss, messes with hormones involved in bone health, and even slows down healing if you do have a fracture. Heavy drinking also interferes with calcium absorption, disrupts hormones, and critically, it significantly increases the risk of falls, which leads to fractures. So moderation with alcohol is key, and quitting smoking is essential.
Makes sense. Before we get into specific age groups, is there an overall dietary pattern that seems to support bone health best?
Yes, looking at the bigger picture, the Mediterranean diet consistently comes out on top in studies. Lots of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, fish, legumes, olive oil. It seems to be the combination and the synergy of all those nutrients, plus the anti-inflammatory aspects that benefit bone density and reduce fracture risk. Variety is key.
Okay, Mediterranean style. Now let's talk specifically about seniors, say 70 and older. If chewing is difficult or appetite is down, how can they realistically meet those high protein and calcium goals we talked about?
Yeah, the focus really has to shift to foods that are soft, nutrient-dense, easy to eat, but still pack that nutritional punch. Think fortified Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, maybe scrambled eggs made with milk, canned salmon or tuna mashed up for salads or sandwiches. Cooked vegetables are easier than raw. Even those prunes we mentioned, they can be stewed until soft or blended into oatmeal or smoothies. It's about adapting the form while keeping the nutrients.
Smart adaptations. And we keep coming back to falls. It's worth saying again. Most fractures aren't bones spontaneously breaking right. They're usually caused by a fall. What are the absolute must-dos for fall prevention at home?
It's arguably just as important as building density. Key things include making sure lighting is good, especially at night, getting rid of trip hazards, loose rugs are a big one. Installing grab bars in bathrooms or other key spots can make a huge difference. And continuing those balance exercises, Tai Chi, simple sit-to-stands every day to maintain leg strength and coordination. Oh, and regular vision and hearing checks are vital too, because sensory decline impacts balance and awareness.
Excellent points. Okay, finally, let's touch on the crucial role of medical review. This is where diet meets modern medicine, and it can get complicated for bones.
This could honestly be one of the most impactful steps, especially for anyone over 65 or really anyone on long-term medication, because many common drugs do affect bone health, either by interfering with calcium absorption or directly impacting bone strength. We're talking about things like corticosteroids like prednisone, PPIs, those common acid reflux meds, even some antidepressants like SSRIs and certain diuretics.
Wow, those are really common medications.
They are, and
Yeah.
people often need them. The point isn't to stop necessary medication, but to be aware of the potential impact on bones. It's really essential to have a conversation with your doctor, specifically about your medications and bone health. A medication review with bone density in mind is critical.
This has been incredibly informative, really drilling down into specifics. So, wrapping this all up, what's the main takeaway for someone listening? How do they put this all together?
I think the biggest takeaway has to be consistency over perfection. You don't need a single miracle food. Building and maintaining strong bones is about the daily stack, hitting those targets for calcium, D, protein, magnesium, vitamin K consistently, combining that nutrition stack with regular weight bearing and resistance exercise, and being vigilant about minimizing those bone breakers. Remember, bone is living tissue. It needs ongoing maintenance. Just like you review your diet and exercise, you need to review how your health, including medications, interacts with your bones.
Absolutely, it's an ongoing process. And that brings us to our final provocative thought for you to consider. We've just heard that many common, often long-term medications can be major factors in bone loss. So if we accept that something as simple as eating 4 to 6 prunes daily is a proven, evidence-based dietary intervention for bone health, how much proactive attention should you be giving to reviewing your long-term medications with your doctor? Not just thinking about standard side effects, but asking specifically about their known, documented impact on your bone density. Ultimately, you are the architect of your own framework. Something to think about.
Thanks for listening to Living Your Senior Life. Be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode, and visit livingyourSeniorLife.com for more articles, resources, and inspiration. Until next time, keep living your best life.